is that Xavi I see on the Barcelona sideline again? Or maybe is that Ronald Koeman yelling about intensity? Nope, it's still Hansi Flick, but this comeback was a throwback to Barcelona playing ugly over those previous seasons and somehow finding a way to get the 3 points in the Liga when they definitely didn't deserve them against a team that they definitely should have got the points against earlier than they did. Welcome to episode 736 of the Barcelona Podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Hilton, and firstly, a big thank you to everybody who joined me on Big Up for the watch-along against Girona and for playing our fantasy lineup game. And don't worry, I will be back on Tuesday for the Olympiacos watch-along, so set that reminder now. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment, and help me out on the podcast apps, or become a Patreon to get these shows without the ads for as low as $3. All right, let's dive in. Here are the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-1 victory over Girona. Headline 1, an early reward. The lineup that Hansi Flick had to select because of all the injuries was a bit of a page out of the Hansi Flick survival manual. It was a bit unorthodox. With so many absences, he went with what looked, at least in build-up, like a 3-3-2-2 with Balde, even with Pedri and Clásico, and then De Jong and Tony Fernandez patrolling the middle. If you want to call him the false 9, that's fine with me. And then Lamine Yamal and Rashford up top, shading wide. So this was for Tony Fernandez, his first team debut officially. He played last preseason. He played in the preseason this year. He looked good, but for those wanting some kind of minutes for him, this is the one that he was selected in. And most interesting to me was that very much like Dro Fernandez a few weeks ago, Hansi Flick was unafraid to put the 17-year-old kid in the middle of all the action. Physicality is one thing, but Tony Fernandez looked ready to deal with the ball in positions of pressure, which is good. That's what you want to see. Can these kids handle when there's a 3, 4, 5 La Liga quality players surrounding you? And Tony Fernandez did well with that, as we'll talk about later. So if you do just want to call this a 4-3-3 with Tony Fernandez in the middle, again, that's totally fine by me and probably makes a little more sense. To start this match, Lamine Yamal starting was a bit of a surprise because I wasn't sure what his fitness was. I figured that Hansi Flick would want to save him for Tuesday against Olympiacos to prepare for a Clásico, but no, Lamine Yamal gets the start, and he was cooking early, very much like he was against PSG, and Alex Moreno was a bit toast on that right side. It wasn't just Lamine Yamal. Barcelona was clicking too. Frankie de Jong was playing higher up the pitch than he usually does, and using his legs and playing off the ball a lot more. He was attacking the half spaces to try to create space in the middle, and I thought it worked really well, combining in tight spaces as well as trying to stretch vertically, using Tony Fernandez as the reference point, which again is not something you'd expect a 17-year-old to have to do. But I thought Barcelona started with a lot of intensity and energy, and it worked really well with that movement and fluidity early on. Again, at least offensively. And all of that fluidity leads to the first goal for Barcelona. It comes from Pedri. As I said, Frankie's off-ball running dragged defenders, and Tony's positioning pulled Girona narrow as he looked to be able to attack that vertical space. And then Pedri just kept on dancing inside the box until he found the shot. He did find it, and it was clinical, right across his body, right across the goal, and it's 1-0 Barcelona. As I said, the first 18 minutes or so from Barcelona was really good, and I thought we were in for a rout. It was confident, it was composed, it was fluid. Well, yeah, I guess that didn't last. Headline 2 is things went south. Yeah, it didn't last, because things, after that point, fell off a cliff. And whatever Hansi Flick football that we've been used to, and I think I will almost say spoiled by over the last year and plus, this kind of reminded me of what we saw a little bit October and November of last season when Barcelona was struggling to get results. But even then, you saw the ideas. Today, there was just a lot of chaos and a lack of composure from that moment on. Girona was able to equalize in that chaos. A corner from Barca was half cleared, a second ball swung in, and then boom. There you go. It's Alex Witsel. Yes, 36-year-old young, or 36 years young Alex Witsel pulled off a bicycle kick that had no business being that clean and getting past Tech. Yeah, I don't know. For Barcelona, you don't expect Witsel is going to score a bicycle kick, but you got to clear that a little bit better. A goal like that is a goal like that. My issue was that Barcelona did not respond. If anything, things got messier and things got even worse. Jules Koundé, he's not having the best season. He coughed up possession to Joe Roca. Tech did bail him out, and then Kubarsi scrambled to clear. And then even Pedri, yes, Mr. Composure himself, lost the ball in midfield. Kubarsi aggressively tried to step for the tackle, but it's one pass, and Girona were in behind. And not just in behind wide with a long diagonal, but again, this is a through ball in behind that back line. Porto hit the post, Eric put him off just enough, but Barcelona were more than playing with fire at that point. They did try to respond, as you'd expect they would do. Frankie nearly scored on a flick-on chance, and Rashford also smacked one off the crossbar on a free kick that he could not take any better, just inches away. Again, another bright sign that from the corners, from the set pieces, I think Rashford is, can we say this? Is he the best on the set pieces since Messi? I think that's what Koeman's been starving out for. I mean, Rafinha's been okay. We think Lamine Yamal will get there, but Rashford is at least putting these on frame, both on corners as well as free kicks, and it actually is a weapon that Barcelona can use. Actually, I will say Pablo Torre, maybe the best set-piece delivery since Pablo Torre in his limited time. It did at that point, as I said, feel like a match that Barcelona were playing with fire, and the flames were starting to spread all over that field, especially with the press, and especially when trying to defend counterattacks with that offside trap. Headline 3, Disorganized and Disjointed. It just continued throughout that first half. I figured that Barcelona would be able to flip some kind of switch, but that never happened. Girona were finding space everywhere, especially in that gap between Balde and Eric Garcia, because Balde was pushing so far forward. So I know we criticized Gerard Martin. It wasn't even an individual thing. This is a system problem. Balde was setting up where Balde is comfortable to set up to be able to break down that block where he can use on the dribble or his legs to get in behind. And Gerard Martin doesn't do that because physically he has to stay at home, and that's fine. But because Balde was leaving that space, now Girona, with one pass, is able to expose that space. So that, again, is a system question between those two different fullbacks you have. On the right, at that point, I was concerned because Lamine Yamal's pressing intensity had dropped a bit, which I would expect because he's not fully match fit, which is why I was surprised that he started the match. And with Koundé, as I said, looking off, Barca's shape started to fall apart on that side as well. Koundé has not been himself either this season, so that left the right side a little exposed. By the 40th minute, it looked like Girona were definitely the team that was going to score next. Bryan Gil skied one over, Alex Moreno went wide. Both Lamine Yamal and Balde looking not yet match fit. It wasn't great. And how would they fix that? Honestly, I thought it would be Clásico who would be the sacrificial lamb. I did think he was struggling to connect play, and he was really relying on Pedri. And instead of supporting Pedri, spatially, everything was all out of whack. Barcelona needed Frankie, and this is an over-reliance on that partnership of Pedri and De Jong. And with De Jong not on the ball and more upfield off the ball, that just meant that Barcelona's midfield were missing something. Frankie needed to come back to reset the tempo with Pedri, and Clásico just wasn't doing that job. And I don't really know what I think of Clásico's overall performance, because I don't think it's something, very much like when I say about Gerard Martin, it's not something that Clásico did wrong. It was an absence of what Frankie de Jong and Pedri together do that Marc Clásico doesn't do or can't do. That's not the player he is. He did win the balls you'd expected him to win. He fought hard in midfield. He won a ton of different tackles. And I'll get to a point where I blame Pedri later on in the game for a mistake instead of Clásico. So I thought structurally it would have been Clásico to be sacrificed to get De Jong deeper on the field. But I also totally understand the move that Hansi Flick made because, yeah, Clásico, again, didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't think he was adding to that midfield. And things did look a little out of sort spatially between those three midfielders. It felt like they weren't exactly sure where they needed to be when Frankie de Jong would go forward. Headline 4 then takes us to Fermin, Roony, and missed chances. So at halftime, Hansi Flick did make the change, and unfortunately, it was Tony Fernandes who was sacrificed. And I say unfortunately, it was Tony Fernandes who was sacrificed because it was nothing about his performance or effort. Very much like Joe Fernandes, 17-year-old, got his chance, got a few minutes, they were good, but Hansi Flick had to structurally change things. This was a tactical move, not something I think Tony Fernandes did wrong. Flick needed more pressing from the left and more shots from midfield. Fermin was the only option for that spot on the bench, so it was Fermin to go to the left. As I said, for Tony, I was happy with what I saw from him. There was a lot of pressure on him in the midfield to release the ball quickly. I think he only really lost it once, but his first touch was good. He moved really well off of other people. It was just the pressing stuff. It takes some time to get up to speed with that with Rashford and a unfit Lamine Yamal. And this looks smart from Hansi Flick because Fermin started to deliver immediately. First minute of the half, long shot, and then a few minutes later, ping, he hits the outside part of the post, and Fermin looked lively. This was good, but to offset that, unfortunately, the concern for me came 5 minutes in that second half, and it came with Pedri. Pedri looked tired. He looked gassed, and we did get reports over the international break that he's dealing with fatigue right now, and that's what it looked like. There was a play where he called Clásico to pick up the third man run infield, but Clásico went to press the wing, which is what he's supposed to do. And then Pedri's supposed to follow that man's run, but he didn't have the legs to. He was slow to do it. And so one simple wall pass, and Girona are then bypassing Barcelona's midfield again. We saw that more in the second half, that Pedri just did not have the legs, and he'd be behind that third man run, especially when Clásico and De Jong would go out to the wings to help and support, because they needed to support those 2v1s for both Balde and for Koundé. But even with those structural changes, Barcelona kept on fighting. Rashford drawing fouls, holding up play, alone up top, especially on those counters. This is good hold-up play by Rashford. And while he did not score, he did miss some chances, I was happy with the performance that Rashford put out there. Kubarsi, on the other side, also scored a goal too, but that was taken off because Eric Garcia had jumped over Rincon, which you can't do. VAR, immediately, I think, we're in the ear of the referee, as Barcelona were trying to complain about, but no, this is a clear foul and an easy call. By the hour mark, Hansi Flick saw what I did. Pedri was completely gassed, so Flick brought on Christensen and Roony. Lamine Yamal also goes to the bench because he was not match fit. Reshuffling everything again. Eric now at the pivot, Frankie and Clásico ahead, and Roony hopefully to serve as a spark on the right wing. And you know what? Roony did play as a spark on the right wing. The outside of the boot ball to Rashford shows that maybe he is building a little bit of confidence. That was a filthy pass, nearly found him at the far post. Then came a flurry of half chances for Barcelona as well. Fermin goes wide. Rashford's face gets smacked by Vitor Reis, and VAR, they say play on. It also was not inside the box, so it wouldn't have been a penalty. But it did at that point feel like Barcelona were putting Girona under a little more pressure with those subs. Hansi Flick getting his subs right. And maybe they would have enough time. It didn't feel like it, but yeah, maybe they would. And then headline 5 is R9? No, it's Araujo 9. I don't think this is going to catch on. But Hansi Flick wasn't done with his substitutes. In the final 15 minutes, Hansi Flick started to throw everything at the wall. It's Gerard Martin replacing Balde, who also wasn't match fit. And then the big one, here comes Ronald Araujo, not to play the center back, but with 10 minutes remaining, let's throw him up top the way that Gerard Piqué used to do it. At that point, 7 of the 11 players on the field for Barcelona, and this is just an injury concern or injury issue, counting Gerard Martin having played center back before, and De Jong, who's also played at center back, 7 of the 11 players on the field were at some point in their careers playing at the center back position, which is just absurd and offensively not how you'd want to end a game unless you're going to spam crosses, which is exactly pretty much what Barcelona did. But in spamming crosses, it can be frustrating. So Flick, he was pretty hot by that point, gets himself ejected, which will take him off the sideline for El Clásico, which is not great. We used to criticize Xavi for his red card. That's why I think it really did feel like a Xavi Hernandez Barcelona performance today without Rafinha. But yeah, with Hansi Flick now getting a red card there, likely won't be on the sideline for El Clásico unless Barcelona are able to win the appeal. But here's what you were waiting for in stoppage time, the winner. It was Roony to De Jong. De Jong still making the effort, still making the runs into the half space. And then that low cross for De Jong in the box creates some chaos. And there was Araujo. It's a perfect touch, maybe a slight deflection, but it finds the back of the net in the corner. Gazzaniga couldn't do anything about it. And Araujo has your winner. And yes, is Araujo 9? Has he arrived? Is it time for Ronald Araujo to be the striker that Barcelona are needing to replace Lewandowski, like I made that video on this week? No, I'm still going to go with Erling Haaland or even Eta Eyang or Aslani or whoever else you can name over Ronald Araujo. That man is a center back, but it worked today, which for Hansi Flick, this was a vital 3 points in a Liga, because if you don't get these 3 points today, you do put yourself, I think, a little bit off the title race. And yes, they were able to make up that ground last season, but I don't know you can do the same thing against Real Madrid and Xavi Alonso this season, because they look a little more comfortable in picking up hard-fought points in the Liga the way that Ancelotti's Real Madrid didn't last season. And this is what you need sometimes for Barcelona to maybe help galvanize you ahead of Olympiacos and Real Madrid. You need a gritty, ugly win, and that's exactly what this was, one that was full of fight. The final note, congrats to Xavi Aspar and Juan Hernandez, who earned their first team call-ups. I know they didn't get off the bench, but hey, Xavi Aspar is having an awesome year. It's a breakout season and a half for him. And as I've said before, he reminds me a lot of Sergi Roberto, and maybe he's going to get the opportunity this season at right back if Jules Koundé continues to struggle that much, and Eric Garcia is needed to help as a starting center back in build-up. We still don't know if those center backs are going to stay healthy all season. So, hey, maybe Xavi Aspar is going to impress enough and be needed at some kind of chance. So, yeah, good on him to be on the bench. The final note from post-game was that La Liga decided to give Pedri the Man of the Match award. Yes, he had the opening goal for Barcelona, but I don't know how you give him the Man of the Match award because, yeah, sure, the first 17 minutes, it was Pedri, but I felt like there was a major drop-off. If anything, I might give it to Roony Badaji, or I think more than Pedri, I would definitely give it to Frankie de Jong. Picked up the assist on the Araujo winner and just ran that whole match, and Pedri wasn't a part of the finale of that game. So, yeah, I don't know. Whoever was your man of the match, please drop that in the comments or hit me up on social media and let me know how much of your hair you pulled out in this game where, yeah, Flick just had to get it done, and he did. I will also see you on Tuesday against Olympiacos for that watch along. And don't forget to subscribe for more match reactions, tactical breakdowns, and all fun things about FC Barcelona. So again, thank you so much. As always, Visca El Barça. And yeah, Forza Barça. See you next time.